January 9th, 2025. I am an avid reader and I'm here to promote some books. This is my website, sofuking.com. Sofu is Latin, it means devout or pious. Way to remember Sofu King is there was a Saturday Night Live skit, Sofa King. But remember, you gotta pronounce it right so you're not swearing. sofaking.com. It's the website that I want to use to give away a fictional book that I'm writing called Sofa King. Now, the first book I'd like to introduce you to is by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Blink. The first part of the book deals with research done by John Gottman, University of Washington. He analyzes videotapes of couples talking and can very accurately, determine which couples will end up in divorce. He talks about the amount of positive to negative in the conversation. Typically you need 5 to 1. So you need to be encouraging and complimenting as opposed to being negative. And then he talks about defensiveness, stonewalling, criticism, and contempt. Contempt is the big one. It appears on your facial expressions, in the tone of voice, and the words or vocabulary that you use. So, if you want to avoid conflict, get along better with people, I would suggest you read Blink and understand how contempt has such a negative effect on communicating. Now, part of the reason why I'm doing this is because I think that people can live a much happier life and we can create a better community if more people know about this. And that's important because climate change is starting to affect things. One book that points out the climate change and how it could affect you is this one, The Way to Nature, Clayton Page Aldern. It takes quite a bit to read through, but page 78 to 80, they're talking about statistics from baseball and how it affects the behavior of the players. The hotter the day, the hotter the temperature, the more aggression there is. Documentary that examines this as well. It's based on game theory, and I've read about this in several books. It's a concept called Prisoner's Dilemma. So somebody took Prisoner's Dilemma, changed it up a bit, and they put it on a computer program. There's a channel on YouTube called Veritasium. So if you just search for what game theory reveals about life, the universe, and everything, it's about an hour. But that really explains that it is beneficial to be kind and forgiving. But if you're kind and forgiving and you're around people that are still being problematic, sometimes you have to draw a line and get away from them. So try and be around people that are kind and forgiving and do so yourself. Now, when we talk about climate change, a lot of people refer to the tipping point, and some scientists are saying, well, you should use threshold instead. So when you look at the definition of threshold, the magnitude or intensity that must be exceeded for a certain reaction, phenomenon, result, or condition to occur or be manifested. I worked as a guide at the Columbia Ice Field for 4 summers in the early 2000s, so I know what the weather was like on the Athabasca Glacier throughout the summer, throughout the entire 6-month season. I went back in the summer of 2022, and it was much different. We did not experience blizzards and terrible weather in the summer of 2022 like we did in the earlier years back in the 2000s when I worked there. Now, Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, is an excellent book. This is his newest book, The Revenge of the Tipping Point. And this, I haven't even finished reading it. I just got it from public library, but it's awesome. It's an incredible book, especially the part about super spreaders. So if you're interested in COVID and why it spread so quickly, have a look at that book. Now, as far as climate change, we can deal with the forest fires. Jasper, Alberta, they can rebuild. Drought, well, it's more difficult, but we can grow food different places, different methods, and transfer it around the world. Sea level rise is the big one, though. Sea level rise, when you have oceans rising up and islands disappearing, those people have to move. But what do you do with the cities that are right on the ocean? When sea level rise keeps happening, those storm surges are going to cause more damage. People might have to abandon those big cities. There's 2 books here from 2019 about climate change. The Uninhabitable Earth, Life After Warming, David Wallace Wells. Now, I'm going to read you a paragraph, half of a paragraph here. As far back as 1960, the polymath physicist Freeman Dyson proposed that we may be unable to find alien life in our telescopes because advanced civilizations may have literally closed themselves off from the rest of space, encasing whole solar systems in megastructures designed to capture the energy of a central star, a system so efficient that from elsewhere in the universe it would not appear to glow. Climate change suggests another kind of sphere, manufactured not out of technological mastery, but first through ignorance, then indolence, then indifference. A civilization enclosing itself in a gaseous suicide, a running car in a sealed garage. That's a good analogy, but you have to picture a running car in a sealed garage, except you're running the exhaust outside. Right? The atmosphere isn't filling with carbon monoxide to the point where we are suffocating from it. We're dying from carbon monoxide. That's not happening. But what is happening is, it's just like if you put the car in the garage and you crank the heater on. Okay, the emissions can go outside so you can still breathe in the garage. But if you got the heat cranked and you got the heat from the engine, that garage is just going to get warmer and warmer and warmer. And that's what's happening to the Earth right now. Now, another good book, which this book alluded me to, the following paragraph starts with the astrophysicist Adam Frank. Well, Adam Frank released a new book recently, but this is Light of the Stars from 2019. The day climate changed. Let's go back to 1965. Speaking before a joint session of Congress, he said, "This generation has altered the composition of the atmosphere on a global scale through ... a steady increase in carbon dioxide from the burning of fossil fuels." That was President Lyndon Johnson in 1965. And we're just staying on the same course, burning fossil fuels. The only way we can really control the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere is if we start burning fossil fuels and plant massive amounts of vegetation so that the vegetation takes the CO2 out of the atmosphere. But then we still have the problem of methane. Climate change is going to be a problem. I hope people read these books, meditate, do whatever to avoid conflict, and nutrition. I've read a lot about nutrition. This is from a book called The Sugar Solution. High blood sugar also raises the level of glucose in saliva, says Saul Silverman, Jr., DDS. He's passed away, but he's got pretty solid credentials as far as being a dentist. But he's more than that. Professor of Oral Medicine at the University of California at San Francisco School of Dentistry, and a spokesman for the American Dental Association. This sweeter saliva supports growth of oral microbes that can lead to fungal, thrush, and bacterial infections. That's not all. High blood sugar levels also reduce saliva production. A chronically dry mouth increases the risk for cavities, bad breath, gum disease, and some difficulty in talking, chewing, and swallowing. That's why I think nutrition is very important, and you should take it seriously. Avoid the processed foods. Cook home-cooked meals. My name's Ace Celebrity, and I hope you enjoyed this video.